Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we will talk about XRP and Ripple. So it is titled XRP versus Ripple for Dummies because we will try to break everything down into simple terms and I will try to explain everything as clearly as possible. So there is a lot of misinformation out there regarding XRP. It is being largely misunderstood and it's unbelievable so how well ridiculous certain lies are. But let's get started. So the first thing we're going to differentiate, so there's the logo. There you can see XRP is a digital asset, as you can see here, built for payments. It is the native digital asset on the XRP ledger. And basically, the XRP ledger is a program. It's a piece of software which runs on multiple computers across the globe. So there are lots of nodes in the network. I will come to that later. And it's like with the Bitcoin miners, basically. So the XRP ledger is like the software which Bitcoin miners run. So the network more or less exists. It's a decentralized database. And there on the top left, there's the logo. This is the logo of XRP, the digital asset. And this is not called Ripple. Ripple is a company. We'll come back to that later. But very important to remember, XRP is a digital asset. It's a cryptocurrency, and it's it's existing on blockchain technology more or less. So we can see here, very important, XRP, it is open source, despite people claiming it's not open source. XRP can be viewed on GitHub, so it will also link it in the description. It is completely open source. It's permissionless. It's decentralized. And it is also a blockchain, very important again. Many people think it's not in a blockchain, so you can even see here, I put a picture in there, where you can see the current block height, so it would be the name in Bitcoin, but here it is called the last closed ledger, or the ledger index. So you can see here that the 64,880,054th block ledger has been closed, and each ledger consists of multiple transactions. And also, now there's the best part, or the greatest part about XRP. So the transactions settle within 3 to 5 seconds. So it's very fast, and it's also very cheap. You can see here that also one drop, that's the smallest unit that exists with XRP. It's like, for example, now again with Bitcoin. As we know, in Bitcoin, there are the so-called Satoshis. So the smallest one is 10 to the power of -9. And in XRP, there is the smallest unit called the drop. It's 10 to the power of -6. So 1/1,000,000th of an XRP. Alright, so the transaction fee is 12 drops, and that's less than 0.01 cents, dollar cents. So it's like I said, they're cheap and very fast. So you can see here the average ledger interval is 3.7 seconds here in the image. So transactions are being settled rather quickly. So the current transactions per second, which are supported about 1,500 transactions per second, they can scale it up to 65,000 transactions per second. Additionally, there are so-called payment channels. So basically everything the Lightning Network tries to be is already included natively on the XRP ledger, called a payment channel. So there you can also handle up to as many transactions as you want to beforehand, and you can settle afterwards. So that also exists, but currently I don't know if many people use it currently. It's not really needed since the XRP ledger can already handle so much volume. But if that even grows in the future, it's also possible to easily facilitate larger amounts there. Alright, so let's go to the carbon footprint. So one thing that is very interesting or very great about XRP is that a single transaction consumes about 0.0079 kilowatt hours. And in comparison, you can see it, for example, for Ethereum. So Ethereum consumes 42.8 kilowatt hours per transaction, and Bitcoin has the worst carbon footprint of them all. It consumes 951 kilowatt hours per hour. Kilowatt hours per transaction. Okay, sorry for that mistake there. And it's also there, you can also see the Visa and MasterCard's payment system, also in contrast, and also how much it costs per paper currency transaction, basically. But as we know, Visa and MasterCard they are still used for payments, obviously, but they are basically you can compare them, but not really, since the one thing is, as we know, blockchain technology is very needs a lot of energy, but it can still be achieved in a way which doesn't use that much energy, like proof of work blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum. All right, so let's continue here. So it's very energy efficient. That's the bottom line here, and let's go on. So quickly to the XRP ledger history. So how was XRP created? As we can see here, in 2011, we've got 3 engineers. We've got David Schwartz, Chet McCaleb, and Arthur Brito. So these 3 people started developing the XRP ledger. The reason for that, or the reason behind it, was they really like Bitcoin, and they decided to create a better version of Bitcoin. So the so-called, they wanted to create a better Bitcoin. That's the basic idea, that improved upon its limitations. Since they were also software engineers, and they already at the beginning knew that Bitcoin had rather huge limitations, you can also see the commits of David Schwartz on GitHub, but they decided to basically create their own cryptocurrency, but which doesn't have all these problems Bitcoin has. And we can see here with the goal of creating a digital asset that was more sustainable and built specifically for payments. So XRP was built specifically for payments, and it probably comes closer to the blueprint of Bitcoin, so this white paper from Satoshi, than Bitcoin itself. And we can also see that the XRP ledger launched in 2012. So it was already there. So it was created. So it started in 2011. The first version was launched in 2012. Shortly after, they were joined by Chris Larson, and the group started the company Newcoin. So the first called it Newcoin. Later, they renamed it to OpenCoin, and now it is called Ripple. So the very important part there is that at the beginning they called the cryptocurrency they first called the cryptocurrency Ripple, but they renamed it, so the cryptocurrency doesn't have the name Ripple anymore. It's called XRP. So it's just XRP. It's very important. So it's a little difficult here, but it's very important to differentiate those two. We've got Ripple, a company, and XRP, a digital currency. So they are having, they have relations more or less. So I don't know how I would rather describe it, but they're completely separate entities. So Ripple does not have control over the XRP ledger, but I will come to that back later. Let's go on. Quickly to the XRP supply. So we can see here that currently Ripple, the company, has 6 billion XRP in their own accounts. 46 billion XRP are already distributed in secondary markets, and held by also many other people. So basically, 46% already distributed, and we've got 47 billion XRP held in an escrow. So I will come to the escrow later. Let's go on. So also XRP is deflationary. We've got currently about 99.990 billion XRP. But this amount decreases every day, basically, because there are transaction fees, and there will be never more than 100 billion XRP, which already has decreased. It decreases every day until it gets less and less. Right. Also, XRP can't be minted. So there are also many falsehoods out there that yes, Ripple can just mint more XRP. That's not true. All the XRP which will ever exist already exists, and it will never change. So the code also doesn't have any functionality for creating more XRP, and it also doesn't work since Ripple does not control the XRP ledger. So they have not control over all the validators. That's simply not true. And right, let's go on. So now let's go to the validators, because they're very important in the consensus algorithm. So we've got currently about 230 validators and over 867 nodes. So the validators are included, so very important in the consensus algorithm. And the nodes are, for example, there are different modes how you can run a node. For example, it could be a full node that the full node knows the entire history of all XRP transactions. For example, the validators don't need to know the entire history. Since there are lots of transactions, it uses lots of storage. So therefore, also the XRP ledger has capabilities that the validator does not necessarily need to know the entire history of the transactions which ever occurred. Let's go on. The XRP ledger is completely decentralized and can operate even if Ripple, the company, would cease to exist. So it's also very important. Many people think if Ripple would, for example, be gone or something, that the XRP is gone. That is simply not true again. The network would still live on even if Ripple, the company, wouldn't be there. They are not essential for running XRP. So that's also a falsehood which has been shared quite a lot over social media and everywhere else, but very important, please remember that Ripple is not XRP and XRP is not Ripple. All right, and who runs the validator? So who's running the code, which basically, who's running the code basically for the decentralized database? And the answer to that is universities. So we've got about 7 universities. So also in regards to that, I will mention there is a unique node list. I will come to that later. But the unique node lists contain currently about 39 validators, so 39 separate entities. And out of these 39 entities, we've got about more than 7 universities in there. So there's University of Kansas, I think, some university from London, from Australia, and so on. So you can look them up. I will also link the in there. There are exchanges, for example, like GitHub and Bitstamp running a validator. And there are also XRP service providers, which are independent from Ripple, like Coil, for example. They're doing web monetization, and also XRP Scan, which is a explorer. So how you can basically check so as you know, transactions are not private, so it's a public blockchain, and the XRP Scan is a tool how you can basically look up transactions. And we've got also other private companies. But all of them are running validators, and the part which was cool that, like I said, 7 out of the 39 important validators are universities. Alright, so let's go on to the next slide, to the so-called unique node list. So validators have a so-called unique node list, or they can even have multiple ones. It's very important. A validator can decide which other validators it wants to trust. And in order to do that, it can set its own UNL and say, okay, I want to trust people from this list or that list or that list, or from these 2 lists. And in this case, we've got 3 well-known UNLs. So one is by the XRPL Foundation, so from the XRP Labs Foundation. This is not in association with Ripple. It's an independent foundation again. There's the link, so you can also look it up. It's based on 58 encode, but that's a little bit too far. Then we've got Ripple. So this was the first UNL, so with which it has started. And then we've got also UNL by Coil, so a company which does web monetization. And the person who's running the validator can decide himself if he wants to use one of these 3 validator lists, or if he wants to even create his own validator list. It's completely up to the person who runs the validator. Ripple does not dictate that, and Ripple also doesn't tell you which one you have to use. So that's also very important. Anybody is allowed to run a validator, even you, even the person who's right now listening to this. So right, so all the people using the different UNLs, it's important that there is overlap. So many validators, like I said, use, for example, the XRPL Foundation UNL. Some even still use the Ripple UNL, so they can change later and so on. But this is basically a network where it is based on trust, more or less. So and now there are multiple answers to solving the problem, but the important part, the interesting part about the Ripple consensus algorithm is that you would need 80% consensus. So currently 39 validators, so you need 31 validators. Meaning that if you would even want to act maliciously, you would have to convince 31 validators, so 31 different entities across the world, basically, to act maliciously. And that's so also important to mention here again is that also, like for example, of service providers like Coil want XRP to function normally, because if it wouldn't, their business model would be more or less ruined, because they are using XRP themselves. So it is even most people running a validator, it is also in their own interest that the system works and that it works properly. So it's also very important to mention. Also, the people running a validator are getting no rewards. That's very important. Again, I've got a quote from David Schwartz. He said something like, I have to paraphrase here, that the best incentive is no incentive. Because the problem with Bitcoin is that the Bitcoin miners are also stakeholders in the system, because they love the rewards and they also love the fees they get for facilitating transactions. So as we know, therefore, it is harder to change, to do changes with Bitcoin. And that's because the Bitcoin miners, they love when they can basically charge huge fees and also get the rewards, because if they wouldn't get rewards, maybe lots of people wouldn't be running a node while mining anymore. And and the model has changed a little bit with XRP, because XRP incentivizes people who are using the system themselves to use it, because currently it's an entire business running Bitcoin miners, more or less. Because those people buy it and then sell all the Bitcoin, because they put lots of money into it and then sell it and pay all the money to whatever, to energy companies. And that doesn't exist with XRP, for example. Alright, so let's go on. Then we've got, so now is the other part, we've got Ripple. Ripple is a company, it is not a cryptocurrency. Ripple, the company, is centralized, because I don't know if there's a thing like a decentralized company. But alright. It is focused on building technology to help unleash new utility for XRP and transform global payments. So they are themselves, it is just a company, they are trying to, well, add new utility to XRP, so they're trying to build their own products and solutions, and they also want to change the way global payments work. And third parties are also pursuing other XRP-related use cases. So then with third parties is meant like community members, and also different companies who can just use XRP. Even you or I could use XRP for our own use case. We can use it any way we want to. There's nobody we have to ask. We can just do it. It's that simple. Ripple provides, Ripple provides financial products to their clients using XRP. So they have their own XRP account, and they're using XRP to more or less offer their own product, so to facilitate payments. So there's their own product they have, it's called ODL, so on-demand liquidity. So it's very easy to basically from one place of the earth to source liquidity to another place instantly. So that's thanks to the quick settlement. And also there is the so-called decentralized exchange built into the XRP ledger, meaning that, for example, you can go you can transform your XRP instantly into, for example, US dollars or euros issued by a company, more or less. For example, we've got GateHub on the XRP ledger, which is issuing euro or US dollar IOUs. You can instantly transform XRP into euros or XRP into US dollars and so on. It's all part of basically built-in functionality. So, let's go to the next slide. So, quickly to the board of directors of Ripple. So, since Ripple is a company, they also have a board of directors. So, the most well-known people are there, Brett Garlinghouse. So, he's the CEO of Ripple. And then we've got Chris Larsen. So, we can see here, Chris Larsen is executive chairman of Ripple's board of directors. They're both, they have been both pretty long with Ripple, more or less, and you can also check it out yourself. I just want to mention it here, but let's go on. Then, like I said, RippleNet is basically a product offered by Ripple, the company, and they are using XRP in the background to facilitate global payments, so cross-border payments, and they've already can check out the custom list. It's not the emphasis of the video. I just wanted to highlight here that it's a separate entity here. So it has nothing to do with XRP. XRP works on itself, even without Ripple. Alright, so let's go to another part here, which is also making people uncertain oftentimes. So we've got Jed McCaleb. He has been formerly part of the Ripple team. And he's also been a founder, as we know. But they parted ways. So Jed McCaleb wanted to leave Ripple over some, as far as I can remember, some discrepancies. I can't really remember what it was exactly, and and they had more or less a settlement that Jed was allowed to sell his remaining XRP. He should have about 8 billion XRP or something like that, but he wasn't allowed to sell all at once. So they came to a settlement that a certain amount of XRP is being sold automatically based on the volume of about 2 weeks before that. So it's always based on the volume of 2 weeks before basically. That's how it works, and it's being sold automatically. It's about like 8 to 12 million XRP, which are being sold on a daily basis. It is some selling pressure, that is true, but it makes about 0.1% of the daily volume, which is relatively small. So he's not moving markets there. He's maybe impacting them lightly, but he's not moving the market. So that's also very important to know. And also, as you can see here, on the 3-month average, in about 78 days, he won't have any XRP left and he will be gone. So it's also another part. So John McHale went off to create his own company and his own cryptocurrency. So he created Lumens. It's basically a fork of the XRP ledger. And right, so you can look it up, but I just want to tell you that, yeah, they're part of ways. John McHale created his own company and his own cryptocurrency, which is called Lumens. Alright, then let's go to the next slide. So now also next big thing, the Ripple escrow. So I mentioned it before in the supply, and we know the escrows consist of independent on-ledger escrows that release a total of 1 billion XRP each month over the next 55 months. This provides an upper limit on the amount of new XRP that can be brought into circulation. The amount of XRP released in circulation will likely be much less than this. Any additional XRP left over each month will be placed into a new escrow to release in the first month in which no escrow currently releases. Alright, so it's very important. So these are quotes by, this is from an article by David Schwartz, so the CTO of Ripple, and it's about many people think that Ripple can just dump their whole 50 billion XRP at the market and crash the prices. That's simply not true. The most they can do is dump 1 billion XRP per month, which is also a lot, but that's the upper limit there. So they're technically incapable of doing anything else. So like I said, they're just normal users. They don't have leverage over the system itself. They can just use it like you and me, and they create an escrow. I also created an escrow. And this escrow releases on a certain date, and it can be unlocked, and that money gets unlocked onto their accounts. And they take usually a small portion of that, and the rest gets re-escrowed, and it will be, like I said, put at the last at the date when the last escrow would finish, a month later than that. Alright, then let's go on to the next graph here. So here we can see on-chain data. So we can see that on the 1st of August, there is going to be an escrow release, the 1st of September, the 1st of October. Their 1 billion escrow consists of 2 escrows with each 500 million XRP, which are being released. And the re-escrow, like I said, the majority of it. But it will come to that right here. So you can see here, this table showing the releases of Ripple's escrow every month, and the same amount returned to escrow. In 43 months, Ripple has released 43 billion XRP, of which 35.5 billion went back into escrow. Ripple has re-escrowed 825 million XRP every month on average so far. So as you can see here, they on the 43 month average, they re-escrowed 82.5%. So currently it's even, as we can, if we quickly look at the latest escrow, so we can see here, for example, in January, they unlocked 1 billion XRP. So like I said, it's on a monthly basis, 1 billion XRP get unlocked. And you can see here that on January, 900 million of the XRP were re-escrowed. Then again, 900 million. So on average, 10% are being capped by them, and the other 90% are being re-escrowed here. Alright, so now the last part here is the Ripple quarter report. They are completely transparent about their sales and about their stats, more or less. So it's very important. They are completely transparent. You can track all the graphs. You can get all the data, all the information beforehand. It's no secret. They're completely transparent. So as you can see here, that they are making all this data public. For example, in contrast to, if we quickly take Ethereum. So the Ethereum Foundation didn't disclose how much they're themselves selling or not selling. So they're keeping it a complete secret. And that's also the interesting part. So the Ethereum Foundation is not being more or less open about it, and they're getting no heat for it. But XRP is, XRP, well, more to be more accurate, Ripple the company is. That's also quite interesting. But right, so the last part I'm going to highlight without slides, when changes are being applied to the XRP ledger, these things are so-called amendments, and on these amendments is also being voted on. So meaning that, so it's on GitHub, you can check out the project, it's called Ripple D, so Rippled, written like Rippled, and when they release a new version, the validators can download the new version, run it, and then when a new amendment is added there, they can vote on it. So when enough validators vote in favor of an amendment, then that amendment gets set into place and then it gets activated. And that way they guarantee that there will, so it is possible to fork the XRP ledger, but that way forks are more unlikely and it's better for the ecosystem. If they all agree on the change, it's basically going to imagine like the taproot of Bitcoin. There also the miners could signal or not signal that they want a new feature to take effect, and with XRP the threshold is 80%. If that 80% of consensus is met, then that feature gets enabled. Alright, so I hope I explained all the ideas about XRP and also about Ripple the company clearly, and I hope you now understand it a little bit better. If you have any questions, please write a comment and ask in the comment section. And I might have explained some things a little bit too unclear, but I'm very happy to clarify certain things in the comment sections. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you now see XRP in a different light or in a better way that you used to before. Alright, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.